So I'm still drawing the same fragment with a slight variation, starting with the C shape, a slight curved C, adding a moon, adding an aura. Instead of auras, adding these petal shapes. Right, and then the rest is rotate and the V shapes, add aura inside the V's, add a little thickness to some of the lines. That's about it. Yeah, so that's the fragment. So let's do one more variation of this fragment, right? If we want to draw it inside a triangle, right? So if I make this square into a triangle, then I will add a curve. So this fragment that we have drawn here, right? Here we have inserted sun rays. This is the simpler version of the fragment. So this also can be drawn in a triangle. So this is what I am drawing, but this time inside a triangle. Right? Again, we'll do the same this side also. Add the moon, add the auras, and then auras here also. Right? So this is how the fragment looks like when you draw it in a triangle, again rotating, right? Add a curve on both sides, add a moon, add auras, again a moon, add auras, right? And then further auras on the other side of the moon also, right? So you can see the look of the same fragment in a triangle also depends on the placing, how you have placed the fragment, right? So we have two adjoining triangles, so the placement is also helping us form a meta pattern. Yeah, so fragments is all about placement, what grid, how you have placed it, and they themselves also provide opportunities to play around. You can introduce some embellishments, enhancements in the fragment also, right? So take your time and slowly draw this fragment. Right? Again, two triangles, one curve, another curve, moon, aura the moon, and then aura outside, yeah, and the last one. Right? So that's another fragment, same fragment arranged differently inside a triangle, right? So let's move on to some more fragments that we learned. So we learned a couple of fragments in circle, right? So we learned this fragment, and then we drew straight lines, right? So just leave a small gap and ink the rest. Right? So if you want to play around with this fragment also, you can always add checks or Knightsbridge in between, right? Let's see how does it look like. Two small moons, two auras. We also learned this one. Right? We inserted an orb inside. We can also add 3 orbs. So this is an example of playing around with the fragment themselves, how I'm changing the look of the fragment. Yeah, so again, you can play around with the fragment by adding a flower instead. So it's about exploring, innovating, trying new things, right? So same fragment, little different look, something like the tangle cuke. Filling up the small little intersectices in between adds to the look. And then aura inside. And then you can do anything, just add some lines. Right? Right? So these spaces, again, it is up to you. What do you want to do? You can always add simple plain auras. You can ink the space, whatever you want to do. You can also give it a hybrid effect. Yeah. I'm adding simple auras. Yeah. Again, there is a fourth one. Add 2 auras. Add 2 auras. And then add some Knightsbridge. Even that can be done. So there are so many ways to go about drawing the same fragment, right? So just have fun, enjoy while you draw. Remember, you are here to relax, try new things. These are just opportunities, ideas. Right? So there are so many ways to do the same fragment. So one more fragment that we did was just about, actually we did 2 varieties, but you can also do the same fragment as I mentioned to you that day also in a square if you want, right? So you can also do it in a square. Right? So that's one example of how to do it in a square. So I'm just going to do the diagonal ones. and then probably do something else. Right, so just have fun with the fragments. Well, I am having a lot of fun here, enjoying myself, experimenting different ways to use the same fragment. Yeah, so you can also do that, do the same thing. Adding auras. Right, and then just in this section, so in a circle you added auras to 4 sides. This same thing done in a triangle, and this is how it turns out to be. You can either ink the ends or leave it the way it is. Right, so here again we have spaces. Let's start with some orbs. Right, this is again a triangle. I'm going to do the same exercise. Right, again you can divide this space. So we have almost covered all the fragments, so let us try something new with the same fragments. So again I'm going to divide this into triangle. Yeah, and then probably use, which tangle can we use in a triangle which we have not used till now? Probably this one. Yeah, this one also we can try using in a triangle. Or probably just use a simple fragment that we have not used till now. Right, a very simple fragment that I keep using. While tangling, use it pretty often. Right, and these section again I'm going to fill up with orbs. Yeah, and then you can add the hybrid effect here. Just add the weaving. Right, so you can also ink it. So just going with what is coming to my mind at this point of time as far as the in-between spaces are concerned. At times inking looks nice as far as intersectices is concerned. Yeah, So now let us explore some more of the fragment. So again I'm going to divide. We have not used this fragment inside a circle. Let's see how can we do that. I'm just going to divide this into 4 and then see if we can do that. Yes, we can. Yeah. Right. So trying to put in the same fragment inside a circle by dividing it into 4 sections. So experimenting here, take your time, enjoy what you're doing. Yeah, so I'm going to do the same for all the circles, putting in a mingle inside the 4 sections of my square, creating a variation of a fragment. Yeah. So I'm now going to add in the last fragment that we learned that day, which is a printum in the center and some printums in the 4 corners also. Right. So if you want, you can try doing that in a triangle also. Let's see what happens if we try doing that inside a triangle. Yeah. This is how I think it will look like. You will have to ink certain sections for the fragment to pop up. Yeah. So that's the fragment we learned, and I've drawn it inside a triangle. So let's do that in a square now. Right. So you can ink the rest of the spaces, or you can leave it as it is, or you can alternate that. Let's alternate it. Yeah, so one I have inked, the next one I will not ink the in between spaces. Yeah, so that's one more fragment that we learned. Again going to ink the remaining spaces in this one. Take your time and slowly do that exercise for all the squares. Yeah. So we are done with drawing our fragments. One small little space that is left here. Again, you can draw the same printums in a triangle. And fill up the rest of the space. right? So this is how our fragments look like. So let us now move on to shading, right? So this project was basically about, we tried different ways to draw the same fragment. We tried square and triangle grids to place the same fragment, right? We will also try different reticulars or different reticulums, different type of grids, right? So let's now move on to shading, right? So it is up to you, how do you want to shade, right? So you can either choose to shade each fragment, or you can shade some fragments as a whole. It totally depends on you, right? So I'm starting from here, and I'll see in each case how do you want, I want to move ahead depending from case to case. But I don't want to be adding too much of graphite. I want to keep it simple. Yeah, so I've started here. Now let's move on to the next. So I'm going to add some graphite here. You can also add some in the center, so it is up to you, how do you want to shade this fragment, right? I feel like shading it this way. So you can either choose to highlight the string, or you can choose to highlight the fragment. It is entirely up to you, depends on the spaces. How do you want to go about shading? Yeah. I think here highlighting the fragment as a border is looking nice. Else you can add some graphite in the center. Probably I'll also touch it a little on the big ones. Just a touch, not much. I don't want the entire thing gray. Yeah. Again, this section, let's see how do we want to, they are complex fragments, so let's see how do we want to go about adding the graphite. So I'm adding here on the grid line, and then just mildly touching, just adding a slight shadow, not adding too much, right? As far as these are concerned, I'm just adding where the flowers seem to be having their center, right? So just going to add some graphite at these so-called center points of the flowers, right? You can always do it differently, the way you wish to. Please feel free. So these fragments are big enough, you can go into shading each one of them. You have spaces there. But don't add too much. Keep it simple. Make sure your whites are visible. So I'm taking one fragment at a time. Yeah. going to each and every fragment and adding graphite to the cone, to the cap, and on the sides of the moon. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop there, not add more. Right? As far as this is concerned, I'm just going to add on one side. Spaces are small. I'm just going to add graphite on one side. So I'm deciding on the spot how to shade which one. Right? So it is all depending on what are the adjoining tangles, how do you want to shade, what are the adjoining fragments, right? Again, I want to highlight the centers, not add too much, not get into adding graphite to each fragment here. Spaces are small, so it's better to highlight, give a touch, not much. Again, going to darken the edges here. Right, so just go with the flow, do what you feel like. How do you want to shade? Again, this section I'm just going to go with the grid lines. The triangle I'm just going to going here with the grids. Again, adding graphite on one side wherever I can. Just give a shadow. Make sure while you're shading nothing is absolutely gray. You should have both whites and grays. That's important. Yeah. Again, just add in the centers of the flowers that you created because of combining the fragments in a certain way. Just blend that. Yeah. As far as this section is concerned, up to you, how do you want to? So I'm just going to probably add a little touch inside. Not do much to my mochas. Just touching the inside a little, keeping the mochas white. Right? This is already done. It's easy to shade your fragments, it's not that difficult. Yeah, applying my graphite here, applying it here, here. So just by learning 4 to 5 fragments, we have already created a beautiful piece of work, right? That's the magic of Zentangle. Just blend it a little. Make sure you have the whites visible. As I keep saying always, there is no shading unless there is a clear contrast. Again, the centers. You can also shade the tangle as a whole if you wish to. Just going to go with some shading on these lines. Some shading here. Light shading. Some on the printum. Bit of gray. Yeah, I think we are more or less done. So I am left with this one here. Forgot to add some graphite. So let us shade it as a whole. So I am adding some graphite at the edges here. Right. So I'm just shading the tangles as a whole, and we are done with shading. Now if you want, you can highlight few spaces with your chalk. So this is shading the tangle as a whole. You can see how I gave the pillow effect by highlighting the ends of this section and left the center white. Yeah, so I think we are done with the shading. So now if you want, you can add some highlights here and there with your chalk pencil. Right? So let us pick up our chalk now. Definitely here where we have not added graphite. Right? So use another blending stub and soften the graphite, the chalk, I'm sorry. Should not be patchy. Should blend nicely. You can add some here also. Yeah. And you can add it anywhere. A lot of spaces. You can add it here. You can add on these. It totally depends on you. Yeah. So you can add some graphite here and this white chalk here and there wherever you want to, right? So for example, you can highlight this section. I want to highlight this fragment a little more, so I'm just going to add a little dot in the center so the fragment pops up. Yeah, so small little things that you can do. I think we are done. So let us now close this project and we will learn some more fragments and do another project and then understand how exactly we can play around with fragments and create beautiful artwork. But we have understood three things, right? The same fragment can be placed in a square, in a triangle, in a circle, right? Those all three look different, so that is a variation that you can do. The same fragment can be placed in different grids, whether it is a square grid, it is a triangular grid, any other kind of grid. We will be trying different. It is a spiral grid, right? We will try different reticulums also. So again, the look varies. The same fragment can be given a different look by varying the fragment, the look of the fragment itself. So this is an example of how we can play. For example, here we have placed sun rays. This fragment we drew original fragment, right, where we had auras on the side of the moon, but we instead replaced it with petals. We did not draw this fragment in a circle. So all kind of experiments that you can do with the fragment itself, right? So try, and don't forget to initial your tile, your work, most important, right? And sign and date it, right? And I shall see you again with some more fragments and some more ideas. Till then, have a good time. Bye bye.